Right. Now, welcome to the QE Tools Workshop. We had a series of topics to present how we work within the SUSE QE Tools team. Let me share screen to show you where we have the topics. So we recently learned at the end of the last year how the Scrum Master within the SUSE Tools team work. Then we learned how the development tools work, and now as a third part, so to say, series, we have how the product owner. The main entry point for us describing anything that we do, how we work for others to learn, but also as a reference for ourselves, is this wiki page. So if you go to the progressopen.org and then to the QA project, there we have wiki, and on the wiki we have multiple SUSE LSG teams mentioned, and well, the first one in the list, not by alphabetical order, but we were just the first one to add an entry here, tools team, and here we describe what we do. So in other cases, we have already presented, reviewed the description of our team, what we do, and why we do that. We have a list of team responsibilities, also mentioned out of scope, which can help sometimes to prevent confusion and to make it clear the responsibility lie. We describe our common user base. That's certainly important to know. For example, there's any SUSE QA engineers that rely on our products, for example, okay, but there are also many other projects, like of course in the SUSE scope there are multiple other projects which are not necessarily or not directly connected to the SUSE products that they developed, like OpenSUSE KD contributors, OpenK actively. But there are also other projects like Fedora or Debian, QoS, and more. And then we have a section how we work. So why do we have such roles? Well, of course, we follow the wording from Scrum. But in general, what we say is that we follow a DevOps approach, using a rather lightweight agile approach, also inspired by extreme programming Kanban. Of course, the main part is the Agile Manifesto, which still holds us. And we plan and track our work using tickets on progressopen.org, so you can all follow that, having access to it. This is why we mentioned the backlogs. I'm saying that because this is also an important entry point for myself as a product owner. Actually, I just tried. How often do we mention product owner on that wiki page? So let's search for product owner, and we find, well, that's the topic of the workshops that we're just presenting today, which is one mention. Then we have a team roster where we say like who is on the team and who is fulfilling which role, and that's mentioned. And then we have a third section which says things to try. Everybody can be product owner, Scrum Master for some time to get a different perspective. And that's it. We don't mention product owner more often than that. So somehow from the role, we cannot easily learn what would be my task here. But basically, what I would say is, if I would describe it, then if I can find that video later, then I will happily reference that to you, which I like really much. It's called Agile Product Ownership in a Nutshell, and it describes all three roles in the team: a product owner, Scrum Master, and a developer. And basically what it says is the job of the product owner is to ensure that we are doing the right thing, that we are building the right product. So how do I do that? How do I ensure that? So basically, I follow the how we work links. And maybe you know, this is also what we present on a monthly basis, our roadmap, where we discuss what we achieved, what we are currently working on, and what is our plan for the future. So what I'm trying to do is I want to ensure that we have a proper vision. Well, we have a vision mentioned here for the team, and I see my job on the strategic level to say, are we on track? Are we doing tasks which will lead us towards that vision? So how do I do that? Either I take a look on the backlog, or this is something what we recently added, is a separate page which I have opened here and which I also referenced on the wiki. So what I tried to achieve with the team is to have clearly defined target numbers or limits which can help us to guide us in our daily work. Of course, those numbers don't tell us are we choosing the right things to work on, but it helps a bit more on the organizational level. So I also wanted to mention that. So for example, we have a backlog. We have a backlog of up to 100 tickets, and you can see that we have 98 tickets. So we are below, just short of that limit. But it's okay. But that's also important for myself, because assuming that the developers, with the help of the Scrum Master, churn down on the tickets which are in the backlogs, so they make sure that the number is lowering normally. Yeah, normally it's the developers making sure that they work on tickets that they resolve tasks. So I can, in the best case, I can just pick new issues. But of course, the question is which new issues to pick and how many. Well, how many is guided by that number, so I shouldn't pick more. And let's say we have one more spot for any urgent kind of thing which pops up like today or tomorrow, or let's say over the weekend, but it shouldn't be more for now. Okay. Then we have the workable backlog. So this is the starting point for any developer saying like, okay, I finished this one task, so what should be next? Then they would pick something from workable. And how to make things workable, I hope that we can also present then, so a short outlook to the next workshop topic, because in the next workshop topic we want to present the work estimation process with team. And this is our main process. How do we go from new tickets, which maybe I picked from untried issues, and put them into the queue, and then the team, with my help, or helping each other, makes those issues workable, meaning they are refined enough, they are defined enough, they are clear enough, so that people say like, yeah, okay, now I know where to start with. We have exceeding due dates, so we want to make sure that nothing is like staying open for too long. We want to get things done, so we are setting due dates ourselves on tickets based on our expectation, based on the usual cycle time, roughly in the range of 14 days for normal ticket. But there can be other cases for due dates. Maybe there's some kind of externally motivated due dates which we are just have to hold, think about that we're also maintaining infrastructure and there's certain things to do, certain security aspects which need to be ensured until a certain time, something where we rely on external factors, where at a certain date prerequisite would be fulfilled. For example, currently there's move going on from SUSE lab spaces from one location to another. So there we need to wait for something external to happen, so that the facilities team tells us this is ready to go, and then we have a date to plan with. And then we have two sections of untried issues. So those are the, let's say, the two main sources where tickets could show up, where maybe you guys report new tickets, where we would decide within our team, and this is mostly then where I tried to keep the overview. Is that something that we could help with, or that we should help with? Or maybe it's something for other teams. So this is right stream. Then we have service level objectives, where we say based on the priority of a ticket, we make a promise. If we're talking about tickets immediate priority, which is the highest priority here in our process, meaning then we will definitely want to do something about it within 1 day. Maybe not resolve the ticket, but make sure that it's not immediate anymore. Like extinguishing the fire happens on 1 day, and then we lower the priority to clean up the rubble the next. And accordingly for the other levels, so urgent within a week, high within 1 month, and low. Yeah, and below that is low, where we don't have the defined limit for the time. Then in progress, so this is what the team is working on, and the limit should be somewhere between 0 and 11. It's just in the middle, so I would say this is a perfect value where the team is working on something. They know what to do. They were able to choose something, but also they are not overwhelmed. So there can still be some collaboration between the individual team members, helping out each other, doing code review for each other and such. And it's also not too much context switch. And then we have in feedback, so this is like the thing where we are waiting for something to happen. Let's say we are doing an important change in infrastructure, and then we would like to await feedback from you as users of the products that we maintain. And we don't want to immediately call something done without waiting for that feedback for, let's say, some days. And also here you see that the number is perfectly same. Now all of these are clickable links, and if we go into the individual sections, so for example, I would start my workday, take a look at that page. If everything is green, then I know, like, awesome, this step is done, and I can go into the details and check that. What can happen is that there are new untried issues, so this one would show up shortly for red, and I would go into the corresponding sections, and I would find tickets here. Currently, there are no new untried tickets, so that's good. But I could find tickets there, and then I'm making a decision. How would we work on the ticket? Or maybe, maybe sometimes somebody opens a new idea, but we can say, we can immediately decide, like, okay, it's a good idea, we want to have it recorded, but we don't immediately do that. And then I put the ticket into the future milestone, and I can show you examples. So taking a look into the backlog, then we see some tickets, and actually what I would like to show you here is created those tickets. Okay. And as you can see, there are quite some tickets which are created by myself, but not necessarily. There are tickets created by others. So what you can see is that I created many tickets, including, and this is a nice example, a ticket SUSE Week 22, SUSE QE Tools team. Now you might wonder, what does that have to do with our products that we develop? Well, there's no direct relation, but SUSE conducts a Hack Week again at the beginning of this year, which is a great opportunity for many members of the team to explore something new, look into something which they needed to put aside for a longer time, collaborate with different people where normally they don't have the chance, or try out an awesome idea which maybe we will pick up as something into our strategy within the team for the future. Or maybe it's an idea which another team within SUSE will pick up because such a great product addition. So certainly there is value in Hack Week. This is why SUSE does it. And this is why I see the need that we as a team support that. But to give people the time and the space and also the proper preparation, I created a ticket. So what I did is I created a ticket and I basically said, Chris, you can help me out here. Basically, I said like there's a Hack Week project and we want to make sure that we prepare properly and we conduct it properly. And then you guys within the team in the estimation process, you refined that ticket, which is, but in this case, is basically like a list of reminders where even we added additional acceptance criteria because I didn't think of everything. I just brought up some ideas, and then if you would like to follow, then basically, yeah, we can actually see it here in the diff. So in this case, it happened that I provided some content, but a bit more content was added by the team in the estimation call. I was attending, but it was done by the team.
And you
There
can
are
see, for example, that we were discussing how to handle regular meetings because obviously they would interfere with focusing on Hack Week projects. And as an example, we don't want to estimate tickets, for example, during that week,
right.
which obviously would be heavily related to regular work. But it was also good that it's part of the ticket, I think, because that way we can see what's the best way to do it. And people are saying, for example, we still want a daily to check up on each other, but not to discuss regular tasks for the most part.
Yes.
And also, for example, an idea came up to switch the alert duty between different people so everyone has a chance to focus on Hack Week for most of the days.
Exactly, because I saw it as necessary then, because we are maintaining an infrastructure and there might still be really critical, important problems during that week, and we would need to handle that. So, nobody within the team denied that this is a necessity, but how we do that, then we discussed part of. Let's see if I can find other examples where yeah, so this is one example where I created a ticket based on a problem which I saw, or maybe because of a user report where somebody like you in chat asked about a certain problem. I think in this case it was really me checking the OpenJ and OpenJ test results, and then only during the estimation we added acceptance criteria. So I haven't added those upfront. I just created a ticket for a problem that I saw. Right. Then and there are other tickets. For example, Robert created a ticket here. Nick, Andre, and Jan Bayer and Jane. They are all over at that time part of our team. So that happens often that we create tickets ourselves, which is based on it's not like we are just coming up with ideas ourselves and not fulfilling user wishes, but rather that's part of the refining process where maybe we have an original ticket created by someone outside the team, and then we come up with more refined user stories part of that ticket. So this is why we create them themselves. But also you can see that it's not my job to create all the tickets, right? Maybe a bunch of them, sure, because in the role as a product owner, I can focus on it. But it doesn't mean that I'm the one, only me creates tickets or anything. Because everybody within can do that. I'm just there to ensure that it happens. And there are also reports from people outside the team. So this is an example of an error report, okay, where we see the ticket was created, in this case 22 days ago. So this is a real error report, and if we follow the ticket, we can see here what happened is that the ticket was created immediately in the OpenCAPE project ready milestone. So it was already created within our backlog. I don't remember at the time, as I suggested to the reporter to say in chat, maybe like, yeah, could you please report a ticket and directly put it into the ready queue? That can happen. Or they did it themselves, which is completely fine because I'm seeing those, or we in the team are reviewing those anyway. Sometimes we decide like, yeah, sorry, no, this cannot be in the backlog right now. But technically, everybody's allowed to create a ticket in the backlog from the beginning. So what we did is just, this is one example which I mentioned before. Originally, it was a ticket, like a single user problem report, and we turned it into an epic because we said like, yeah, okay, this is part of a bigger topic. Maybe we want to come up with more things to improve in our process, not just fix up the problem to hide that problem, but really improve our product so that cannot happen anymore, that we improve our infrastructure, make monitoring and such things. So that's where we extend the scope of the original problem report into a bigger work item where we say like it makes sense to not just fix the problem for that one user, but really do a deeper. Yeah, we shifted the ticket around a bit, and this is one example where I'm also the assignee because it's an user-facing error report. So I chose to say like, yeah, okay, I can do that because it's not that much development effort for this ticket, because we have the other tickets which are left to the developers within the team to work on. Here I'm, basically in the role of coordinating. And also, why is the ticket blocked? Because we have those other tickets which I mentioned. In this case, this ticket 656. And we say like, okay, we did some improvements and now we are waiting for the work which is coming. Coming to the section of blocked. So this is also why you see me multiple times also as the assignee in tickets for blocked tickets, because I'm doing the work to keep track of the bigger scope and the array of all the tickets and how they are connected. Janis, how to go to that list? If you follow the wiki, how we work, then there's the backlog list. So it's this link. The only thing which I changed now to make that a dynamic query is that I added the author column. Normally isn't necessary. Just that I wanted to show who creates those tickets.
Okay, I have a question.
Yep.
Checking the projects in the progress, I see a lot of. How do you track the very old tickets? Because if I go, for example, to the OpenQA project issues,
Yes. So keep
there
in
are
mind
5
then.
or 7 open issues.
Yeah, we will take a look shortly. So keep in mind that here we are not within any project. So this is progress open/issues, right? So this query for us says our backlog defined by all tickets, regardless of the project scope, when the target version is OpenQA project ready. And let's say it's for historical reasons that the target version is called like that. It could say SUSE QE Tools ready, or it could say SUSE QE Tools backlog. Okay, maybe that would be a good idea for a target version. And of course, if you take a look, there's also the project column here. Those tickets come from multiple different projects. For example, from the generic QA project, from the OpenQA project. This is the one that you mentioned, right? From the infrastructure project, from the SUSE QA project, which is a private SUSE internal project, So for example, no problem to share that there's a plan to migrate some system from a server room into a new firewall related security zone. Okay. So how do we track the tickets in our backlog? Well, those are all the tickets which have this ready tag. If we take a look into each of these individual projects, for example, the OpenQA projects, then we see, like, of course, there are 500 open tickets. So those 500 tickets are, in some cases, as you can see here, things that we have in our backlog, which are most often where we also say, like, yeah, this has higher priority, then this is something that we work on. In many other cases, it has many future, and of course, when we're talking about 500 tickets, then it means that most of those tickets are not in the backlog, not in our backlog. But they are just valid ideas or problem reports for OpenQA in that case, but not something that we chose to work on as a team right now. So will we work on that? Maybe, maybe not. We can't give a promise on that. We can just say right now what we work on is everything in ready. What is in future? The only thing which I can tell you about it is that right now we do not plan to work on that. Okay?
But there are 1 year old or maybe 2 years old tickets, right? Are they still
5 years old, yeah. Yes, that's just reality. We could, of course, make a more hard choice to say everything that gets that old for this public open source project, we would just still take the stand and reject those tickets to say, yeah, it wasn't worked on for 2 years, so it will not be worked on forever or any time. Let's just reject it. But I don't see the benefit in that.
Do you have an example of maybe a ticket that was in future and then that you have thoughts on moving to the backlog, or maybe one that is in future right now, and like what's your way of thinking how to get them into the backlog when
Yeah,
we have
right.
the
So let's just take that next example. So this was just added recently by a guy who's a member of SUSE QE Tools team. So why did they create a ticket? Because we have one ticket where we already did a related chance for one change for an API route. So it's just logical to say we want that to have it's for another sub feature of that API route, right? But it was the right choice to say not immediately, not just do one thing and then do it for all the other API routes, because we need to first collect experience with that. Maybe there's some other pressing issues in the meantime that we need to work on first, and then we can return to that. So this is likely a candidate which will go from future to ready, let's say during the course of this year, right? But maybe not. Maybe we'll shift our focus. We need to. Those two tickets, I'm sure they had been in ready from the beginning, because they are just problem reports that we found. For example, here, so Dan Sharma created that ticket 4 days ago. I think with normal priority. Tina made the choice to include that ticket into the backlog. Why she did that, I don't know if I mentioned that in a chat, but again, as I said, it doesn't have to be my decision, right? It's not like only I can do that, but I see myself as in the role to ensure that we build the right thing. And I also chose then to increase the priority because I consider that an urgent issue. Let's find another example of tickets which had been in future maybe this. Oh yeah, likely some ticket will have a lower number, like that one. That's becoming old, right? Over 1 year ago. And as you can see, is that when the ticket was created over 1 year ago, we set it to future to say, thanks, let's collect a bit of experience first before coming back here reacting on past jobs. So at this time, I said like, okay, valid idea, likely something that we will pick up if we have the capacity, if we have collected the feedback, if it goes actively to say, based on our previous experience, it's the right thing to do. And then some months later, so this was, from September 2021 to April 2022, it's a long time, but then we chose to include it in the backlog. Then actually we said, okay, there's another, to be able to do that, there's another thing which needs to be done first. We could resolve that blocker, and we put it back into future for some time, because it would have been nice to work on that feature, and I really wanted to have that. But at this time, it could be the time of the next AC climate issue in Nuremberg server rooms. So maybe that blocked up our backlog, and we didn't just have the capacity to say work on that. We could have kept it in the backlog, and if it exceeded the size of 100, but that would likely be, also a little less motivating for team members, because then there's just too much.
Okay, my observation is that everyone can open a ticket, right? But if I have done one or two things. If I open a ticket and I notice that if I don't take the ticket, it's gonna take too long to get implemented. Like the best
Yeah.
approach is to
Okay. So
want something just so.
let me try to give you examples which were quickly picked on. Okay. Where the author is someone outside. So for example, here, the ticket which we just mentioned. So Dan is an external user, not part of SUSE QE Tools team. And they created this problem report. And that was just 4 days ago. And we picked it up to work on within the team. So why did we do that? Well, maybe he did a good choice to include a long list of affected jobs on the public OpenK instance, which are related to Kiwi builds, and where we would see, okay, there is a problem where it's clearly something that is not triggered by users immediately, or it's not obvious that this would be a problem by users. It's affecting production OpenK instance. It's affecting products which are related to that, which is in this case Kiwi. And it's something which likely could affect others as well. And it's also something that cannot easily be worked around by others. I mean, if images are downloaded, but then they're incorrectly downloaded, the jobs would fail in a rather curious fashion. And this is a problem where I would say I made the call to say it definitely makes sense. Or maybe Tina made the call to say, like, yeah, this is definitely something that we should, work on immediately. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but, this is my concern. Like that, we need more a way to, well, not force. to involve more contributors, so as an open source project can go um, forward faster.
Yeah,
But keeping all these backlogs, I'm not sure if it
right.
helps.
So, right. So I see the job of a product owner to do proper expectation. I know that sometimes it can be frustrating, receive an answer to say, no, sorry, we cannot work on that right now. But I think it's less frustrating as the alternative, which would be that there's a ticket where you don't receive an immediate answer. And after 2 years, you ask like, hey, does anybody work on that? And then there's no answer again. So I think it helps to make an explicit decision. So let's see if there are other examples. For example, here from Michael Falcone, this is also a problem report. We kept it in normal priority because it didn't affect that many jobs. And there's also this problem report where we say like, yeah, this is clearly something related to either our action or something that was is not easily fixable by others. And how about feature requests by other people? May this one, but it's also a problem report. This is a problem report. So I guess it's natural that when we receive reports from user, then often those are problem reports rather than feature requests. There are feature requests, but then they are not appearing that often. So if you want your tickets to be picked up in the backlog, make it a critical problem report, and we will for sure pick it. And in other cases, as I mentioned, the ideas and feature requests that we work on are most likely linked to user reports as well, but maybe not immediately, because then we see, let's see this example. So you see this was added by Robert, part of the team, but it's part of an epic. And this one was created by Michael Falcone, so not by a member of the team. So this is where the initial report came from. It's 1.5 years old already. Okay. But then because we couldn't immediately progress, I already added it more or less immediately to the backlog, but it wasn't worked on. Okay. Or it couldn't be worked on because the problem to solve it properly was going a bit deeper. I assigned myself trying to help you to make sure that the team can work on that, to make it more clear, because members of the team stated like they don't know how to work on that. They don't know how to solve that. Okay.
And there was also, I would say, I need to make sure we know how it's meant to work, to see what expectations people have from the feature, from the workflows.
Yeah.
That also, not just the technical points, but also to see what we really need to have or want to have in the end.
Right. And then this is where also, we can see that in a comment from Chris stating that we are not clear on what we want to, how we would see. So this is when we turned that into an epic to say, well, apparently it's part of a bigger thing, and we need to define specific subtasks where even some, in this case, where come up with a spike solution and to learn a new matter subject in more detail to be able to contribute properly. On the other hand, there are feature requests like let's see, maybe we find examples in the OpenGA issue tracker, because Johannes, you mentioned that. Let's sort issues by the numbers. And as you can see, there are some tickets. So this is the ticket 2524, which is over 8 years ago, was created. Is it still valid, or should we just reject it? I already commented on the ticket almost 7 years ago. So this was like 2 months after I started to use it, trying to help here understand what should really be done. And 1 year later, I got the feeling that I understand what is missing because we updated description. And it's still very rough, but it's still something that we could take as an incentive in general. So do we come back to that? Maybe we will, okay? And maybe not exactly as part of the ticket, but rather some other tickets which we create on our own, but eventually implicitly fixing that one as well.
To be honest, right now I'm thinking that the small things that makes the user experience better, it should be picked up first.
Yeah, okay, right.
Yeah, okay.
Right. So there are more quality of life features. For example, job group administration, right? Or something like show details of soft failures and test overview, e.g. bug links. I think this is solved. I'll keep it for later. Take a look. Maybe it already resolved. But a better log viewer, right? So better log viewer could be one thing. Where I would say most people agree, like, yeah, there could be done improvements within the log viewer. And we do have competent people to work on that. Why don't we work on that? So why am I choices to work on something different instead? Well, I would say about 60% of our time, unfortunately, I must say, is reactive work, where we are maintaining the infrastructure and we're working on issues which are mostly scalability issues, because you guys are doing such an awesome job to really use our tooling to the extreme. And this is why a lot of problems come up where just to maintain the thing for the future and to keep it running, to be able to support more products, more service packs, more tests for each product, more architectures and all the thing, we need to work on. And those things are really not that fancy. And often you don't ask for that in user reports like, hey, it would be nice if we would have this or that button. But I would say it's understandable from this enterprise perspective that we need to work on that. And I would say it also makes sense if the tools team members who can focus on such complicated issues involving changes in the architecture work on, and leave something fancy like a log viewer or add UI to let me give a simple example. We don't have the means to delete a user over the web UI, right? You need to go to the database to delete the user. It sounds rather simple to add that, and maybe even motivating and fancy to do that as a developer, but it doesn't really help as much our use cases as we would like to think, right? And
yeah,
on
it
the
would be an example of something that sometimes it's really handy to have, but we don't delete users on a daily basis, right?
yeah,
So it's
and
really more
also
for nice to have.
And also, I think this is something that, let's say, a drive-by contributor or an external contributor could solve, at least theoretically, without needing to know all the intrinsic details of the architecture. Of course, everybody also has something different to do with their time, so this is why often that doesn't happen. but that should explain it. If
Okay.
so, and I would say this is also the hard part of my job as a product owner, because I imagine if we wouldn't have a product owner within the team, or actually if we wouldn't have a team, then maybe people would likely pick those things up. You know this Eisenhower matrix of, there are urgent but important things, then there are urgent but not important things, then there are important but not urgent things, and then the not important, not urgent. And if you don't have that overview, if you're going from one task to the next one and just diving into the code as a developer from day to day, likely you will have a really hard time to pick the important but not urgent things and separates them from the urgent but not important things, right? So likely developers would work on the urgent but not important things, because people that scream the loudest say like, hey, could you please add that UI button because we definitely need it. And in the meantime, the whole thing is maybe falling apart, but we don't realize immediately, only after a year. All right, so we were mostly talking about the backlog, but just to make sure, what else do I see myself as a product owner, or what else do I work on? Well, of course, we have our meetings within the team. For example, we have daily meetings, and I try to attend when I can, to be able to solve some questions. Also, as a person, I also see myself as a developer, so I also try to get my hands dirty and develop some maybe smaller and less important fixes myself. So I'm also attending daily at that role. But I want to be, I want to help to track what's going on, and also to help to solve questions if they arise on a daily basis. We mentioned ticket estimation. That one is certainly important, because then, as you saw, many tickets come from myself, or maybe come from users that I talked to, and then I can help during the estimation process to answer questions from the team, so that we come up with properly refined work. Mid-weekly unblock, similar situation there, where when things are not going forward, then I can help to say what's the real important part of each work item. We have mob session, maybe less important for myself, and then we have weekly coordination, where I think it's very important, because there we demo features, we coordinate over the backlog, so a bit like the roadmap presentation, but more focused on team, so that we have the overview and we are sure we are doing the right thing on a broader scale. I also participate in the retrospective, although the main focus there is on the team, on the developers and the Scrum Master, but I just see that as the ultimately most important meeting in a team. Conduct a retrospective to really give room to inspect and adapt and learn to improve, and also I want to learn and improve myself. So that's without doubt. And of course, we have the workshop right now, which I see as important. So why am I doing that? Well, talk about publicity, connecting to users, learning from you as users, getting feedback. Many good tickets and ideas come from discussions within the workshop or related to the workshop. Maybe we gave you some ideas, and then you create a ticket after the workshop, and then I see it all. And then we have communication channels like SUSE Slack, we have Element Chat, we have IRC, we have mailing lists, and from there come problem reports or feature ideas, but most often it's like somebody has questions about our products, and then I try to help to solve those questions. But in parallel, I would like to come up with an improvement for our products, which will then end up in tickets, to say, if that user has this question, then likely there are 10 other users who also have that question but didn't raise it to us. how can we improve our product so that people will not run into this blind spot? No. For example, how can I install OpenQA in this or that environment using containers or whatever? And then, yeah, so this is where we try to improve the setup, make it easier, improve the documentation, have an easier one-click approach for deploying and such. There are also coordination meetings, for example, within the department or with other teams. And even now, since some months again, I also have the real offline coffee talks in the new awesome SUSE office, where I bump into people which maybe I do not work with on a daily basis, and I collect ideas from them, or I ask them, I listen what they're working on. Maybe they have different solutions for our problems which we could apply. Maybe they could apply our tools but don't do that yet, and we can learn from that how we could improve so they could benefit from it. Maybe they don't have a complaint but more like curious observation or experience, which so that's the work how I see it. Product owner, already taking a bit long. Sorry about that. Do you have questions? Would like to challenge me or other experience from your role as a product owner? Someone open the mic? Okay, fine. So if you have more questions or notes, even complaints or feedback, I would be happy to hear about those later on. Then let's cut it short here, and for now call that a meeting. I would be thank you for listening. Thank you for participating. I would be happy to see you again then next week, where we will talk about the work estimation process within the SUSE QE Tools team, which we already mentioned here, but then go a bit more into detail and show you how we would. Okay, so thank you for attending, and see you next time.